What's up, everybody? Wasn't planning on coming on YouTube tonight, but I am here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Crawford and Sean Porter with you guys live. No big fights this Saturday, so I figure I'd jump on here with you guys. I'll wait for a few more people to come in before I start. Hope everyone is having a good weekend. And I will be here next weekend for the Joshua Usyk fight for sure. All right, but yeah, I just wanted to I wanted to get on here tonight and talk a little bit about the Sean Porter Terrence Crawford fight on a technical level. Okay, about the actual fight. I know I did drop a video early this morning, just basically giving you my overview on the fight itself, but I didn't really discuss like any technical analysis on the fight at all. All right, but I'm really hyped about this fight. What's up, everyone that's coming in, man? J Roos Theory, what's up, bro? EBA, Agro, Chris, Kid Chocolate. Oh, Peter Quillen, what's up, bro? I seen you in here before, man. Thanks for coming by, man. If that's really you, thanks for checking me out, man. Unbiased Perspective, what's up, man? Tony, what's going on? What's up, everybody that's getting here? I really want to talk about this fight, man, because my mind has just been like just thinking about this fight. This is my favorite fight. This is my favorite welterweight fight this year. You know, we got a few good ones. We didn't get that many of them, but oh, that's not really Peter Quillen. All right, what's up, Hamza? But yo, all right. I was watching some of the fights already, like going back, and I'm already like, you know, I hope this fight really goes. But we haven't really got that many welterweight fights this year. I really like the Virgil Ortiz fights that we got. I think we got both of them this year. Let me look these guys up. Virgil Ortiz had just fought Kavaliauskas, and he also fought Mighty Mouse earlier this year. All right, and what else did we get? We got Jaron Ennis against let me look all these guys up because I'm going to start forgetting names and stuff. So we got Jaron Ennis. We got what else did we get this year? Sergey Limpinets. All right, that's who we fought. All right, so what did we get this year? We didn't get anything from Errol. We didn't get anything from Bud. We got Ugas and Manny Pacquiao. That fight, we got that fight. But outside of that, we really didn't get much this year. You know, I'm talking about 2021 itself. We didn't get that much. And I'm excited. You know, this is like my favorite fight of the year for the welterweights. All right. Clarence, what's up? Tony, what's up? Everyone that's here. So I wanted to chat with you guys and pretty much discuss this fight. How is it going to go? I wanted to hear from you guys. I've been reading the comments on my other video, and it kind of inspired me to do a video on this fight and how I think it's going to go, how I see it going, you know, because I love both of the fighters. And like I said yesterday, if we weren't going to get the Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight, this is the other fight that I wanted to see. You know, I know both of them had wanted Manny Pacquiao, but as far as like a challenge for both, this is the fight that I wanted to see. We know Errol already fought Sean Porter. It was a very tough fight, close fight. I believe that Errol won the fight. I think it was very close, though. I think the knockout or knockdown definitely swayed it more into, you know, his favor. But if it wasn't for the knockdown, I think I actually scored it 7 rounds of 5 for Spence, even without the knockdown. A lot of people got it 6-6, and some people thought Porter did enough to win. All right, it's whatever. All right, but we're gonna talk a lot about Bud here, too, because there's a lot of things that people say that are not true. I believe that a lot of boxing fans and just people in general, you know, they don't really do much research. You know, yeah, and I believe that a lot of boxing fans don't really watch the fights like that. You know, I think a lot of guys just, you know, especially some of the newer fans or some of the more casual fans, I think a lot of them just listen to things. Like they might come here and listen to me, right? They might say what you know, they might hear what I say and just run with it. And the thing is, when I'm doing breakdowns, if you notice, like I did a breakdown with Usyk and Joshua the other day, I tell you which fights I just watched. Even though I've covered these fights before, even though I've seen them before, I always go back and watch the fights because I want to get it together. And I want to explain to you why I think the fight is going to go out this way or that way. I want to tell you, explain, and break down the outcome of the fight or the way I see the outcome of the fight. And I tell you which fights to go back. Usyk, yo, if you want to see, you know, him get hit by this punch, watch the Garcia fight. If you want to see him get hit by this punch, go back and watch the Bellew fight. Like, that's what I do. And I think a lot of people don't really care to do that, and that's fine. But I think people listen to channels and just run with what they hear, you know, and I think a lot of people talk about size. When it came to Bud and when it came to Spence, one thing I've always heard is the size. The size, he's too small. He's too small. You know, he hasn't proven himself at the division, and that's fine. You don't have to be blown away with what Bud has done at 147 because I understand who's out there. You know, I know who he beat, and even though I was impressed with who he beat, I understand that there's other fighters that's better out there. You got out there, you got Danny Garcia out there, you got Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, you know, Manny Pacquiao. There are fighters that he did not face that are better than the fighters that he faced, like Benavidez and, you know, Jeff Horn, you know, Igas Velasquez, who I think is a little underrated, even though he just lost to Virgil Ortiz. I still think he could have ran with the best of them. You know, he just lost to two really good fighters. He lost to Ortiz, who's a top prospect, well, top contender at this point, and he lost to Bud. You know, we really didn't get nothing. We really didn't get much of anything of being David Avenesian, you know. So anyway, I wanted to talk about some of these things that I hear when it comes to Bud, you know, because Porter's proven. Porter's proven. Win or lose, he's proven. He's proven. He's the only guy that's literally been in there with everybody. You know, he didn't fight Floyd. He didn't fight Pacquiao. He missed the top rank run too. On top of that, right? He didn't fight Marquez and Bradley. But since that generation, he's for all the other guys. You know, even some of the outgoing guys like Andre Berto. And he's had his struggles. You know, if you guys was watching Porter back then, you know about the Julio Diaz fights. You know, two really, really close fights. The first one, you can make an argument that he lost. All right. The second one, even though he won, it was still a close fight. Both were close fights. And that's Julio Diaz. People don't care about Julio Diaz because Keith Thurman went in there and destroyed him. You know, destroyed him. But Julio Diaz was a guy that was solid for years. You know? But people, you know, Sean Porter's been in there. You know, fighting Danny, fighting Spence, fighting Thurman. And listen, I love Sean. I got nothing against Sean Porter. I've been a supporter of him for years. I like him as a fighter, but more so I like him as a person. I've always given much props to him and his father. You know, when the love is coming, the hate is coming. Not that I hate. I'm not going to give any hate. But part of the reason why he's been in these fights with all of these guys is because they were confident that they would beat him. You know, I remember when Porter was trying to fight Danny Garcia. I remember when he was doing these wrestling videos and all this promo stuff to try to get Danny in the ring. You know, I remember when Sean was chasing him. You know, I remember when Thurman wanted to fight him. You know what I'm saying? These fighters wanted to go. Kell Brook was going after him. You know, it's different. The energy is different depending on who the opponent is. You know, because Kell Brook was willing to come to America which is not something normal for him to fight Sean Porter for that title. Why? Because he was confident that he would win. But when it came to Errol Spence, who was his mandatory, he decided, you know what? I'll take the bigger risk up at 160 because this guy here is too much of a threat. And that's the way I see it. I'm not saying that's the fact. That's just the way I'm seeing it. You know, I think fighters often move up because there's a bigger danger at their current division. And they would rather lose to the bigger guy than lose to the guy that's right there. Mikey Garcia, Lomachenko. They should have fought at 135. All right. But Sean Porter, as much respect as I have for him, part of the reason why he did fight all of these people is because people felt that he was beatable. You know, and people are going to try to front like the heavy PBC fans, you know, the anti-Bud people, right? On that side, at least. Before Sean Porter fought Errol Spence, they all thought Sean Porter was going to get knocked out. I remember I was one of the few that was saying, like, crazy. There's no way he's knocking out Sean Porter. That's going to be a tough fight for Errol. Just like a lot of y'all are saying this is going to be a tough fight for Bud, or he might beat Bud. I was saying that I think Errol's going to win the fight, but this is going to be a tough fight. Sean Porter's too durable. He recovers too quickly. Yes, he's been rocked. He's been down, but I've never seen him really badly hurt. You know, I've seen him get rocked by Kell Brook and walk to his corner a little buzzed. You know, I've seen Keith Thurman buzz him. All right, buckle his knee a little bit. You know, I've seen Errol Spence drop him. I've seen Adrian Broner drop him. It was a flash knockdown, but it was still a knockdown. You know, a lot of people, we got to remember, like, going into these fights, and I'm talking about at the time. I'm not talking about what people are telling you in 2021. I'm talking about the time of these fights. People thought Danny was going to win. You know, Porter's too sloppy. He's too rough. He's a football player. He comes to charges in, which he does. But he's improved on that. He's made it work for him. Yeah, I think right now, he's the other best guy. If you're not including Terrence Crawford, if you're not including Errol Spence, I think right now I got to give it to Sean. You know, because the other guys, I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they're in a prime anymore. At least Sean, I can say Sean is still at his best. And this is why this fight is so important. This fight is my favorite matchup of the year as far as welterweights, because Sean is still Sean. He hasn't lost a step yet. So if he ends up losing this fight, the people that are still making all kind of excuses and talking about how Bud needs to prove himself, they're just flat out crazy. They will have no choice but to give him props. You know, and I'm not even talking about just the PBC dudes. I'm talking about the other dudes. So, you know, the other dudes that came out, the Canelo and the Virgil Ortiz dudes, you know, that's been attacking Bud Crawford. I've seen a lot of that this year over the whole ESPN pound for pound list. I've seen it. All right. So Bud, this fight is so important for him because it finally improves. It shut the mouths of, it's going to shut the mouth. If he wins. Now, if he loses, well, people are going to say, see, he was overrated all this time. They're going to base it all on this one fight. And that's what fans do today. They base everything off one fight. It's off one fight. Now, if he loses to Sean Porter, then he loses. I'm still not going to forget everything that he's accomplished as a fighter. It's okay if he loses. But I'm expecting him to win. And I'm expecting him to be dominant. And I'm expecting him to, I'm not going to hold my tongue. Much respect to Sean Porter. He's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. One of the best at this division, but there's levels. There's levels to this. You know, Sean Porter does what he does. He's great at what he does. Like, he's a great pressure fighter. You know, no one wants to get in there and fight him. He knows how to fight a rugged fight. It doesn't matter if it looks pretty. He's not about making the fight look pretty. He's about winning. But there's levels. There's levels. And Crawford's going to go in there and he's going to make it look easier than Kell Brook made it. Thurman made it. Even Errol made it. Mark my words. The only concern I have, and there's only one concern for Bud, at least for Bud in this fight. Hopefully, he don't catch a bad head cut, cut from a headbutt. That's the only thing. Sean likes to charge in is true. So it can happen. It's a possibility for it. But we're talking about points and scoring, Bud all the way. If we're talking about power, Bud all the way. People keep talking about size this and size that. I think he's fit right into 147 just fine. All right. When he fought Jeff Horn, remember how Jeff Horn was being real rough and physical with Manny Pacquiao? He's displaying some dirty tactics in there. Bud didn't allow any of that to happen. Just like Jeff Horn said, Bud is very powerful. He's strong. Dude used to wrestle back in the day. So all this size stuff, size this, size that. He's been beating nothing but career welterweights. You know? And before he fought Horn, it was a good fight. It was a good test. It was a good test. You know why? Because we're basing it off Horn's performance against Manny Pacquiao. Even if you think Manny Pacquiao got robbed, Pacquiao didn't dominate him. Still a close fight. Still very competitive. The problem ain't just size and power, guys. You know what makes Bud so dangerous? You don't see the punches coming. As I was sitting here a little while ago, because I wasn't coming, I had no plans of jumping on live tonight. As I'm watching the fight, I'm watching Horn. I'm watching a little bit of Horn. You know, I'm realizing that Horn does not see any of these punches coming. When I think of the Kell Brook fight, when he got caught, I understand he may not be as durable anymore. But the problem is he got hit with he got clipped with a shot he didn't see coming. You know, shout out to Jermaine Bean, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you for supporting, man. One of my top subscribers right here. Bud versus Porter is a good fight. Should be free on ESPN, in my opinion. Let the commercials and advertising run up the bag, but I like Porter by split decision. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of pay-per-view, period, at all. You know, but I understand that it's going to be here. You know, so as far as, you know, the whole thing with pay-per-view, I don't want it to be pay-per-view. You know, I don't think I don't think it should be pay-per-view. And when I say that, it's not because I don't think Bud is big enough. I understand that this is his biggest fight, but I also understand that I know what we've got from other fighters that weren't pay-per-view. It was only based on his subscription. If Joshua is giving us fights with Usyk without it being a pay-per-view, then why are we getting this as a pay-per-view? You know, if Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko could fight without a pay-per-view, why is this a pay-per-view? You know, I don't think Loma and Bud, I don't think either one of them is any more famous than the other. So I'm just basing it on logic, you know, and I just don't think any of these guys are pay-per-view right now. I don't think any of them are really worth it right now. I just don't. Now I'm going to support him because I'm going to cover the fight and I'm going to support my favorite fighter. So I'm going to be honest. That's my bias there. I'm going to support Bud and I'm going to support Sean Porter. I want to support the both of them for fighting each other. But as far as bringing new people in, you know, people are not going to want to check it out because they're not going to want to pay for the fight. You know, they're going to try to find a way to stream it or whatever. D-Style, thanks, bro. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. William, man, I hope everything is good with you down there. Thank you as well for the donation, man. Appreciate it, man. I hope you're doing good. You know, I know you got hit with the storm pretty bad, but I hope you and the family are doing just fine. Let's get back into this. Let's talk about this fight. Don't see the punches coming. You know, I remember watching these interviews, like somebody had a collage of videos on Instagram, or not Instagram, but YouTube. And they were basically saying, they was basically comparing the fighters that fought Floyd and Manny Pacquiao and comparing the power between the two. And I think Oscar, I think Sugar Shane, I think some of these guys were saying that Floyd's power was greater, even though he didn't have the greater KO ratio in welterweight division. They were saying that his punches, that he punched hard. And people are looking at it like he's not knocking anybody out, but you don't see the punches coming. You ever been in a fight and got hit with something that you did not know it was coming? Like, it hurts much more. You know, it hurts much more. You don't see it coming, you know? And I think, Bud, you got to remember, as you watch Jeff Horn, because I think the proper fight to watch to get some kind of idea of how this fight can go. All right, Sean Porter is greater than Jeff Horn. Please do not take what I'm saying and just run and be extra with it. Jeff Horn has a similar style to Sean Porter, the most similar out of everybody that Bud has faced. Then you have Errol when it comes to Sean Porter. Watch that fight. All right, they're both southpaws. You know, we know Bud can switch it up. He can fight righty or lefty. But if you want to see Porter fight a southpaw, you want to watch the Errol Spence fight. All right, but Errol and Bud are two completely different fighters. Their strengths are totally different. And one thing that I noticed that Jeff Horn struggled with when he was charging in. All right. Sometimes he charges in with his head. Sometimes he charges in with a right hand or a left or whatever. He's charging in different ways, right? That's what he's going to do. He's not trying to maintain the range between him and his opponent. No, he likes to charge in with combinations. Okay. And he likes to bully. He likes to get really physical. Crawford was able to predict it every time. He might stop him in his tracks with a jab. He might catch him with an uppercut. He might slip a shot, step around him, and then counter him with a combination. But he saw it coming every time. You know, the thing is, you can watch that fight. Just watch a couple of rounds. Do me that favor if you're here. When you have some free time, just watch Bud's feet. Don't do anything else. Just watch Bud's feet. Marion Brown said, Felix Diaz fought like Porter a little bit. Absolutely. Absolutely. But watch the Horn fight. Watch Bud's feet. Very quick feet. And Horn, it's not bad. He can move pretty well. You know, this is why the fight with Pacquiao was a little bit competitive. You know? But watch Bud's feet in that fight. And look at the way I was just talking about Usyk being able to step around his opponents and stuff like that. We've seen it with him. We've seen it with Lomachenko. Bud does the same thing. But he's so good at so many things that we don't even notice how good this guy's legs are. Now, Sean Porter is no slouch. Sean can move very well. He's very fast feet, very fast hands. But he becomes predictable. This is why Ugas was able to tame him, right? Somewhat control him with the counters. See, Ugas can counter very well. Very good counterpuncher, right? Elite counterpuncher, for sure. Even before the Pacquiao fight. That was the dangerous part about him. But what if you can counter on the move? Like Terrence Crawford could. Crawford could be circling around you and throwing punches at the same time. He doesn't have to be stationary to land his counters. And he can punch and still hit you with some power, some power behind it. He doesn't have to be stationary and flat-footed like Ugas is. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at all of these things going into a fight. Tony Boswell, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Much respect. BoxingWave in the chat. Stop by the show. Support them and hit that like button. Working and listening. Yeah. Definitely hit that like button, man. Appreciate it, man. Hit that like button. Everyone that's in here, definitely hit that like button. All right. William. Problem with Bud is that he's been fighting B-level competition at 147. And Porter is definitely one of the best at 147. Bud isn't ready for Porter. But see, you keep talking about the resume. I'm not talking about the resume. I haven't mentioned the resume once. You keep talking about the B levels, the levels. I brought that up in the very beginning of this video. Sean Porter has definitely been in there with the better fighters at welterweight, right? But you're not. I'm talking about the way the fighters fight. And this is what people don't do enough on here. This is why I don't watch so many channels these days. I really don't watch a lot of channels these days because it's like if you're not talking about race, if you're not talking about Bob Arum or Eddie Hearn or the viewership or the buys, the pay-per-view buys, these dudes don't got nothing to give you. They got nothing else to give you. They can't break down the styles. They can't even tell you why they think a fighter is going to win. Oh, a fighter's going to win because this fighter's bigger. He's too small. But it's not small. I understand he's fought at a smaller division, started at a smaller division. He's not small at 147. He belongs at 147. At 154, he's small. At 140, he's big. Now, when he moved up to 130, when he moved up from 135, he was big at 135. He's much bigger than Gamboa, who wasn't proven at 135 yet. Gamboa fought at like 126. But when Bud moved to 140, he belonged there. Dude kept growing, though. If he went down at 140, he'd be big there now. Just look at his frame. Check him out. When he goes to the fights and takes pictures with Danny Garcia and Demetrius Andrade, he's not small. But people keep saying he's small, and they hear it from one person, and they keep repeating it because they don't want to watch. They don't want to talk about I'm talking about what I'm seeing in the ring. I'm not talking about what you heard from other channels. What are we seeing in the ring? What are the fighters doing? How are they throwing their punches? How are they countering? How are they taking the punches? You know, let's not forget also, Bud has moved up to 147, and these B-level fighters all getting stopped. He didn't make it his business to go up to 147 and win on the scorecards. No, he made it a priority to stop every single fighter that he faces. He has to work a little harder at 147 to get the stoppages, though. So he does take some more punches. Going back to the Phyllis Diaz, somebody brought up Phyllis Diaz. If you look at the Phyllis Diaz fight, which was, I think that was at 140 still. Okay, yeah, that was at 140 still. The Felix Diaz fight is one of those fights. That and the Postal fight is a fight where Crawford was not trying to get hit. All boxing. Yes, he stopped Diaz. He stopped him, but it was based on accumulation of punishment. He wasn't going in there reckless like the Kavaliauskas fight. See, the Kavaliauskas fight, he had to work harder to get the stoppage, as he will with Sean Porter. He will have to work harder to get the stoppage, because I believe he's going to go in there and try to stop Sean Porter. He's going to go in there and try to make an example out of him and show the world, like, yo, is this the guy you guys are saying that I'm avoiding? Okay. Okay. I'm going to go in there and do what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? So listen, we got to stick to the fights. Listen, resume definitely a factor, but it's not that simple when it comes to breaking down boxing. It's not that simple. You know, all of these fighters, they bring different challenges every single time. They're all different in a certain way. Benavidez, yo, I know he had an injured knee, but you know what? I want to say he struggled, but Crawford had issues with Benavidez because of his counters. So if Bud were ever to fight Ugas, he would have those same issues. Speaking of Ugas, because I'm going to bring this right up. I'm going to bring this up. So you size guys or you weight division guys, was Ugas better at 140 or 147? Were you guys watching Ugas when he was fighting at 140? Most of you, I'm sure you weren't. But if you go back and watch his fights at 140, when he was losing the guys like Amir Imam and losing these guys, was he better back then or was he better at 147? No, he was better at 147. He's much better at 147. As he moved up, he improved. Same with Canelo Alvarez. Is Canelo better at 154 than he was at 160? Hell no. Or at 168? Hell no. Canelo is in his prime right now. He was great back then. He was already one of the top dogs back then. He's been pound for pound, but he's improved. No, we used to do videos back then. I used to do videos. Who's better, Money May or Pretty Boy? It's debatable. Pretty Boy used to knock people out, but Money May was a boxing master. You know what I'm saying? He moved up. The knockouts weren't coming, but the talent was there. The way he was winning these fights, it weren't close. He was just beating everybody. So you can't just base it on guys moving up, weight, yada, yada, yada. Listen, there's a lot of guys he hasn't fought, and I agree. But that doesn't necessarily make them better than Bud, just because Bud didn't fight them yet. He just didn't fight them yet. That's all it is. I think Porter's biggest problem here is that when he charges in, he's going to have to deal with Bud stepping around him and countering him. See, Bud is not going to just lay on the ropes like Keith Thurman. All right, and when I was talking about feet earlier, look at the Errol Spence fight with Porter. You know when Errol was forceful, you know why I like that fight? Because Porter made Errol actually use his legs. Right? Errol had to really work on countering and timing Sean in movement, because Sean would just charge in. But what did it expose in that fight about Errol? When you're comparing the two, because that's what we're doing, right? We're comparing fights, but we're not just comparing a win and a loss. We're comparing what we're seeing in the ring. Now, when I told you guys earlier, look at Bud's feet, take a couple of rounds and just watch his feet. Take a couple of rounds and watch Errol's feet when Porter's fighting him. You will see that Errol was trying to do the right thing, and he was having some success with his counters. You know, he would take that quick step back and shoot that straight left as Porter was charging in. But the problem with Errol is Errol's really flat-footed. So he kept losing his balance sometimes. Check it out. It's there. I don't have to lie to you. It's on YouTube. Check out Errol Spence's feet. I'm not saying he's inferior. I'm just saying that they have two totally different styles. Errol's a flat-footed fighter. So when Sean was jumping in and charging in on him and just throwing a bunch of wild punches, Errol, at times he would time him and counter him as he was charging in. But there was times where he lost his footing a little bit, and he really couldn't sit down on those counters. See, Bud is different. Bud can hit you on the move. Or he might give you a little head control and just push your head down as you're charging in like this. I've seen him do it. With Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn, at times, he comes in with punches. Sometimes he comes in with his head. Terrence would just push his head down. You're not going to charge him in here with your head, not on me. Or sometimes he would just simply step right around him. Whoop, pivot right around him. Boop, boop, follow you up with a combo. Easy. Follow it right up with a two-piece. Errol can't do that. Errol cannot do that. If Errol's going to break you down, he'll break you down a different way. He's not going to break you down with being swift. He's not a swift fighter. He's not a slick fighter. This is why I think Porter's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a rough night in there. Because Bud can literally do what all of these other guys was doing. See, the problem with Errol when it came to the Spence fight, when it came to the Porter fight, is that he couldn't just sit down and walk his opponent down that was usually standing right in front of him and beat him down, beat him to the body. You know, Mikey Garcia, you know, he was smaller, but he wasn't quick. He didn't move well. He was right in front of him. He was stationary. All these other guys, Danny Garcia, stationary. Great fighters. I'm not taking anything. I'm just talking about the way that they fight. Bud isn't that. Bud is going to be moving and punching while he's moving. And he's going to be throwing shots around your guard. Or he's just going to catch you while you're jumping in. Either way, you're going to get hit with shots that you're not going to see coming. I think Porter, I know a lot of y'all want this fight because you want Bud to prove himself as a welterweight. We all do, right? I want that. But for the people that are against Crawford, and it's just a prediction, I could be wrong. Listen, excuse me, if I'm wrong, you can come back here, you can clown me in my videos, you can leave your comments, you could dislike the video, you could do whatever, you could dislike it now, you could do whatever you want to do. You know, I mean, if you are here and you're supporting me, hit that likes button, appreciate it, share the video, all that good stuff, subscribe to the channel. Now, but let's be for real. If being serious, a lot of you guys don't realize is that I think Bud is a stylistic nightmare for Sean Porter. You hear me? I think a lot of you guys are looking at this as a test for Bud, which I am, because it is the best fighter on his resume at welterweight, for sure. I think a lot of you guys don't really realize, though, is that Porter is not a good matchup for him. This is somebody that can actually expose him a bit. The best people that Porter has faced, they weren't necessarily the most difficult for him. Ugas was very difficult for him. Julio Diaz back in the day was very difficult for him. You guys are just looking at the names, and I'm looking at the styles. And I think Terrence Crawford is a nightmare for Sean Porter. This is not a good matchup for Sean Porter. It's not. I actually think that Ugas would give Bud more trouble than Sean Porter. Call me crazy. Call me whatever you want. It's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but I think Sean Porter's style is going to get completely exposed in this fight. Nothing personal. I'm just calling it as I see it. Now, whether or not Bud, Luther Wright says Bud stops him. Bud is too skilled. That I don't know. And the reason why I say that is because Porter is durable. Porter got experience. Porter knows survival tactics. If Porter has to hold, he will. He's not going to let his ego get in the way. Porter is one of the most responsible fighters in the sport. So if by chance, if there's a chance that he is hurting, if there's a chance that he got rocked, if he gets knocked down, I expect him to handle it accordingly, like in a way like he needs to do what he has to do to survive. This is also the problem, and this is what I see coming in this fight. There's going to be a point in this fight where Sean Porter is going to be the hunted. There's going to be a point where he's going to be getting hunted. Not in the way that Errol was doing, in a way where he's going to have nothing. He's going to have nowhere to go. I expect that to happen at some point in this fight. You know? And I know these guys are friends. Listen, you guys can have a drink, do whatever you want after fight. But you guys are going to fight. And you guys got to do whatever you can, you know? I mean, even Porter. I mean, because listen, if Porter wins this fight, that would be the best win on his resume. You know, but I think I'm expecting Bud to make people a lot of feelings are going to be hurt that night. Not mine. Because if Bud loses his fight, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But if you're in it for different reasons, like if you got hatred for this guy, because I think a lot of people do for different reasons. But if you got hatred for this guy, I believe that you're going to have your feelings hurt that night. You know, I mean, eventually, you know, and hopefully this fight really happens, because you never know the way boxing works right now. You really can't tell. You really don't know how it's going to go. You know, we get in the news. We thought Bud was going to fight Manny Pacquiao earlier this year. You know, we really don't know how this is going to work. Hopefully they can move forward, go forward with the fight, and everything is everything. But, you know, I think, you know, eventually I will do a thorough breakdown of the fight, but it's going to sound a lot with what I'm saying. You know, I'm not changing my position on this. I think Bud is going to win. It's just about how he's going to win. Is it going to be by knockout, or is it going to be a domination? You know, I think Porter's going to have his best round in the earlier rounds, but as it goes on, it's going to be a wide gap between the two. We're not going to end this fight thinking like Keith Thurman or thinking like Errol Spence in their fights with Porter. It's going to be a totally different show. It's going to be a totally different show. All right, let's go through the comments, man. I want to see what you guys are saying. I want to read some of your comments, respond to some of what you guys are saying. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. Red Lemon said, I can see Bud stopping Sean Porter in the later rounds. What you think? Yeah, I actually, you know, that's what I was pretty much just saying. I think, yeah, we might get that. It might happen. You know, I think it's going to be a unanimous decision, a valid unanimous, no robbery, a unanimous decision, or a late stoppage for Bud. You know, Bud definitely belongs at 147. Yep. Welcome one says Bud is going to win as he has more skills, technique, and more tricks up his sleeve than Porter. Yeah, I agree. Sweet Science says, thank you, Wave. And I'm sure a lot of your subscribers agree with that sentiment about the climate of most boxing channels today. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch many. I watch a few, and it's slowing down as time goes on because I think the boxing channels are exactly what they complain about. If you understand what I'm saying. Boxing fans say they want the best, and they tired of the politics, and man, they eat off of that. You know why? Because a lot of the fans eat off it too. That's all they want to hear, And this is why we're getting fights like Lamar Odom against Riddick Bowe. Now, if boxing was where it should be, and if these fighters were paying, I didn't get around to doing a Holyfield video. I didn't get around to it. But, if I did make that video, this is exactly what I was going to say. Not for nothing, but all these old guys fighting each other, all these celebrities and all this stuff that's happening, celebrity fights and stuff. If we were getting the fights that we should be getting at a pace that we should be getting them, I mean, we should be getting something almost every weekend, right? Like, we should be getting something almost every weekend. But the way it's looking right now, the long gaps and periods of no, big name fights, and that's hurting the sport. I think if we were getting the fights that we're supposed to be getting on a regular basis, we wouldn't even notice. We wouldn't even know that Riddick Bowe is fighting a Lamar Odom. We wouldn't even know. We wouldn't even have to address it. Holyfield, legend, one of the greatest, warrior. I don't have no ill will towards him. I love the man of Holyfield. I love him to death. But I'm sorry. If boxing was what it should be, and the top fighters, the best was actually fighting the best, if we found out that Holyfield was fighting, we would not be talking about it because we'd be too focused on the good fights that's taking place. And this is why all of these other fights are happening. This is why everybody's checking in on what Jake Paul's doing. You know why? Because nobody else is doing anything. Most of these fighters don't even fight once a year no more. Some of them fight just once a year. Jermaine Bean, thank you, bro. Porter can mix it up like he did on Danny Brawl and Box. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the Porter way. That's the Porter way. That's what he calls his podcast, Box and Brawl. I think before, Porter's improved over the years. I've said that repeatedly on here. He improves. He still improved. He improved his boxing ability. His boxing ability wasn't all that great, but he's improved dramatically over the years. He's not just some football player. If you got him in that space, he's not that anymore. What he does is effective. And his volume and his relentless. And he's relentless. He's aggressive. He's all over you. All right. But the punches are cleaner. I think he's learned how to create some space, open up a little better. But what if he can't find his opponent? What if his opponent's legs are a little quicker than him, even on his back foot? What if Crawford, as he charges in, Crawford is stepping around him every time and countering? I haven't seen that done with Porter yet. Crawford's the only person I know that can do it. I think Manny Pacquiao could have done it. Spence couldn't have done it. Danny couldn't have done it. Not even Keith. Keith moves well, but not like that. He don't move like that. You know, Rebel Life, what's up, man? What's going on, man? Shout out to Rebel Life Boxing. Subscribe to his channel, man. Yeah, man. I picked Joshua to win. All right, definitely. Definitely. I just did the breakdown like 2 days ago. It's one of the most recent videos I got. So definitely go check that out. Definitely go and check that out. Yeah, Luther. You know, Crawford is a mean fighter. You know, he's not trying to be passive in there. He's trying to absolutely destroy whoever he's fighting. And I know him and Sean is cool, but I think he has to make an example of Sean. I think it's sad it had to be Sean. But I don't know, man. You know, I don't know. You know, I think I was reading Deuce says the butt hatred is weird, especially because it's mostly coming from pro-black boxing fans. Yeah, well, if you really want to know my thoughts on that, nah, I'm not gonna say it. I can't be that real. I give it to y'all real, but there's a certain level that I'm gonna cap it off at. Because if I really told you the reasoning behind that, and I'm sure a lot of you would know that, it will be too much. And people will feel away. I would have to dig into something bigger than just boxing. But I know why the hate is there though. Like I identify like exactly what the problem is. You know, but most hatred is from pro-blacks. Yes. Or no, first of all, let's get rid of that, because people that are pro-black that you're addressing are not really pro-black, first of all. But I'm not going to get into all of that because that's a different conversation. That's a totally different conversation. And YouTube, that's not for YouTube. You know, if I ever do like you know, like what's it called? Not YouTube. What's the other thing that's called where you know you got subscriptions? I can't think of the name. But something different. I will never go that far on here, you know, because I'm trying to just keep it boxing. But we can, you know, maybe at some point, you know, I can be a little bit more real when it comes to that. All right. But yes, most of his haters, unfortunately, are from that crowd. All right. But we also have to address the other crowd too that are mad at his high pound for pound rating. You know, there's a lot of people that has an issue with the pound for pound thing, you know, and no, it is what it is, man. I think the pound for pound thing is not even a real thing. You know, it's just like everybody has Phil Booker has a different Patreon. Yes. Phil Booker has a different pound for pound list than Leo does and High Tech does. Everybody's in here. No one has the incomplete identical pound for pound list. It's whatever you want. You can put whatever person you want in there for whatever reason. You know? Honestly, Leo, I look more forward to this fight. Only because I want the lies to end. Okay? I want the lies to end. See, the thing about Joshua and Usyk, that's a better matchup to me. You know why? Because I'm not quite sure who's going to win that. I think Joshua is going to win. I have Joshua winning. I'm confident that Porter is going to lose to Bud. I'm very confident in that. I'm not confident that Joshua will beat Usyk. I think he will, but I'm not sure. If Joshua takes the L that night, I wouldn't be surprised. Usyk is good. The Andy Ruiz fight was different, you know, but Usyk, if you lose to Usyk, that's a respectable loss to me. Whatever the odds have it, I don't know what they have it as. I'm not a gambler. That's a respectable loss. But losing to Porter is a respectable loss. It's just that the way I see it, I see Bud destroying Sean Porter. Even if it goes the distance, I see him destroying Sean Porter. Completely outboxing him, outclassing him. Sean is great. Bud is at the very elite level to me. He's the most skilled fighter in sport today, to me. To me. You can call me overrated. That's fine. Listen, that is fine. If people think I'm overrated, Bud, that is fine. That is I'm totally cool with that. We don't all have to see it the same way. You know, I don't like him for any other reason outside of his skill set that I see. That's the only reason why I like this dude. You know, Leo says, I can see Bud being the first to stop Porter. Listen, if he doesn't stop him, he's going to be the first to make it clear that he won. And they won't be able to say that he's old like they did with Kell Brook. You know, Kell Brook, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I like to give people the credit when they do things, man. Because when Kell Brook was set to fight Sean Porter, was set to fight Errol Spence, Kell Brook has just got his face smashed in by Gennady Golovkin. I thought Kell Brook was going to win against against Errol based on skills. Still. And he was winning early. But I based it on skills. But when Errol won, I didn't run and say, oh, Kell Brook is damaged goods. A lot of people did. I didn't. I gave Errol Spence his props. You know, I gave him his props. That's what we do. You went out into his home, his background and beat him. You travel to beat him. Much respect, much love. Now, I know that fight was a few years back, so I get it. I understand it. Kell Brook hasn't really done much since then. You know, he's picked up a couple wins here and there, but he hasn't really proven that he's a top welterweight. So I get it. I understand it. It's not the biggest win in the world. I'm not trying to do that. But I remember how people were looking at Kell Brook looking like a G.I. Joe action figure, into that fight. And people were like, oh, man, I don't know. We think, Bud is going to lose because Kell Brook looks amazing, yada, yada, yada. Then when he went in there and got knocked out, it was like, Kell Brook is done. T Goose says, I agree. But passes so many, I think he said, Bud passes so many markers: time and intelligence, power, chin, patience, and adaptability. Great fighter to me. Yes. Yes. Listen, as far as hatred, there's a lot of hatred come from different areas. But I don't want to address like people that I don't respect or people that I just don't like. Why that I just don't feel that are relevant. Bud hate comes from a lot of places, man. All right, but we don't need to talk about the hate because the hate won't matter. If he goes in there and do what a lot of us are expecting for him to do, then it won't really matter, Speaking of Brook, there are rumors that he'll be fighting Khan next. A fight that's 5 years overdue. 5 years overdue? I think it's a lot longer than 5 years, man. That fight is extremely overdue, man. I think that fight I'm thinking like 8 years. I think it's a long time. If we go back to those years, Kell Brook, and I get Khan. See, Khan is looking at it. I see, this is the thing. I do think Khan dug Brook, But I also believe that Khan went on to still fight top fighters when he didn't fight Brook. So when we say people are ducking, right? Like, for example, Devin Haney, the Devin Haney situation. What did I say last year? During the pandemic, I was saying, okay, franchise title, I hate it. I want them to get rid of that, right? But when you don't go fight Devin Haney, and when you're Lomachenko, or no, when you're, when you're Teofimo Lopez, right? You go and fight Richard Comey, and then you go and fight Lomachenko, right? You're chasing Lomachenko. I don't feel like Teo was trying to avoid Devin Haney at that time. Same with Lomachenko. You know, it's like he was collecting the belts. He was going after the belts. And then he went at Teofimo Lopez. So when we say duck, when it comes to Khan, okay, he didn't fight Kell Brook, but he fought all these other guys. And then when you look at Kell Brook, it's like, okay, you fought Golovkin, which was suicide, and didn't think you had a chance at all to win that fight. I mean, that fight was just the dumbest fight. That I think that was the worst matchup since I've been on YouTube. I think that was the biggest bonehead mistake that Eddie Hearn, you know, he's a good promoter, he's a great promoter and everything, but that was the dumbest matchup to make for your fighter. Like, who did not know the outcome of that? The only people that were picking, that was picking Kell Brook were people that hated Gennady Golovkin. Everybody knew that Kell Brook was going to get demolished. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, Kell Brook didn't go on to fight anybody. He didn't go on to be great. So Khan is looking like, listen, there's a risk in this fight here, but I'm still fighting better people. Like, I lost, but look at who I was fighting when I lost. Whereas Kell Brook, he fought Porter, but he kind of went back with his belt and played it safe. He wasn't fighting any he was fighting like Jojo Dan, and like he was fighting these guys that was not a threat to him at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, let's go back to Kell Brook, because we were talking about this back then. You know, I was making videos on this back then, and like, I understand Khan, like, in a way, like, you was fighting, you know, you fought Sean Porter. Before Sean Porter, you didn't fight anyone decent except Carson Jones, and he wasn't even an elite level guy. It was just that he gave you hell and you had to rematch him. But outside of that, you fought Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Kevin Bizier. Like, no, man. Khan cannot fight those people. Khan would have gotten crucified if he had fought those people. I have to give Khan credit. You know, I have to give Khan credit. You know, it is what it is. Like, who are you fighting? Look at who I'm fighting and look who you fight. Yeah, I got knocked out by Canelo, but it's Canelo. I moved up to fight Canelo. I was fighting at 140. I moved up to 147, you know, and then I moved up to fight Canelo. I got knocked out by Canelo. You know, you can't say he's ducking Kell Brook when he went and fought Terrence Crawford. He didn't have to fight Terrence Crawford. Crawford needed a name at 147. They didn't even really want to make that fight. But he fought Terrence Crawford first. You know? High Tech says that Triple G fight was actually the worst boxing move I've ever seen. Triple G at the time was a cyborg and had certain people's favorite fighters vacating titles. Yeah. Oh, but people weren't there, man. People forget real quick. When it comes to boxing, people forget things overnight. Triple G at that time, Triple G was ridiculous, man. He was ridiculous. He was going there and letting guys like Willie Monroe punch him in the face. He was taking punches. Dude was ridiculous. He's taking punches for a full-fledged middleweight, a career middleweight. You think Kell Brook is going to go up to 160 and neutralize him? Come on, man. Nah. Jose Marquez, he was ridiculous against C-level fighters. But yeah, well, I mean, he was great against A-level fighters too. You know? I mean, what, he lost to Canelo first fight? I don't think he lost at all. I mean, that was a pretty damn good gift that they gave Canelo there, that draw. Because Canelo did not win that fight. I mean, whatever you think on the second fight, you could think whatever you want. But that first fight was a clear win for Gennady Golovkin. Clear. You know, Danny Jacobs, I actually think Danny Jacobs won the fight. I think he won more rounds. I like Danny Jacobs the way he fought in that fight. I mean, yeah, I mean, when Triple G definitely stepped up, the fights were tougher, as it would be for anybody. All right, but he still fought and won these fights. You know, he still beat him. Let's not act like he didn't beat Canelo. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. I'm not gonna get into that tonight. All right, man. Listen, I'm gonna get out of here, man. I gotta check out. I just wanted to chop it up real quick with you guys about this fight with Porter and Crawford. You know, we'll talk more about the fight down the line. You know, at some point I'll do a breakdown and everything. But definitely my favorite fight at welterweight for the year. You know, like I said, Virgil Ortiz giving us some good fights. You know, Ennis gave us a good fight. Pacquiao, Ugas gave us a good fight. But this is by far the best welterweight fight this year for me. All right. So anyway, I'm out of here, man. I'll see you guys you know, maybe tomorrow night or, you know, by Monday. I'll be back on here. I still got a lot to discuss. But I'll see you guys soon, all right? Peace.